One of the major hindrances to achieving balance is a fundamental misunderstanding of balance. Most people, when you think of balance, you only think of one thing, and that is, say, like a scale where you have something on one side, something on the other, and they weigh exactly the same. Then you consider that to be balance. But Torah does not necessarily teach that as balance, although that is a balance in Torah. That is not the true picture. It's not the whole picture of balance. When the Torah speaks about balance, the Torah is looking in the is concerned with that which is functional, that which is in harmony, and that creates balance. So let me give an example. Most people would admit that the world, this whole world, is in a balance, which is true. But when you look at the world and you look at the way Yah created the world, it is not simply created with yin and yang. It's not simply created like that. I mean, yes, there is that, but there's not exactly. Let me explain that. Okay. After Yah divided the light from the darkness, and then the earth, we could see the earth, and he called for the dry land to appear. So the dry land comes up. A normal person would say, okay, to balance that out, you would have to have equal dry land and equal water. But in reality, no. What is it? Something like 75% is water and only like 25% is earth or dry land, and yet it's perfect balance. I could say the same thing about, say, like a tree. When you plant a tree, we live here in the redwoods, and we have the largest trees in the world, and those trees are just amazingly tall and wide, and they're perfectly balanced. But that tree is not as far down in the ground as it is above the earth, nor can you say there's an exact amount of leaves and exact amount of limbs on this side of the tree as there is on this side of the tree. That's not true either. But yet, in its proportion, the way Yah designed it, is more wood above the ground than under, but yet that tree is balanced, though. I'll give you another example. I've been around some people who can really cook. And when they get ready to make, say, like a pastry, like a cake, when they get ready to put in the ingredients to make a really good cake, nobody says, okay, we got to have equal amount of flour, equal amount of sugar, equal amount of salt, and equal amount of whatever, leaven to make a cake. Why? Because they say now everything is equal and it'll be balanced. No, you're going to make a mess. So in reality, in actuality, life then has to be looked more through the lens of Torah when it comes to balance, because the Torah teaches us what true balance is. It's not always equal. It doesn't have to be perfectly equal to be balanced. I'm gonna give you an example. Another example straight from the Torah. Our fourth commandment: remember the Shabbat, the seventh day, to keep it holy, separated, as a day of what? Rest and worship. Then he says, 6 days are you to work. And 1 day is a day of rest. Notice he didn't make it balanced. He didn't make it equal, I should say. We don't get 3.5 days of work and then 3.5 days of rest. No, when y'all looked at it, he said, this is the balance. The balance is you're gonna work 6, 1 off. That's what you need. That'll work. Let's talk about giving. People say, well, I want to be a balanced person. Notice how Yah sets up giving. He says, bring the tithe or the 10th part. And many times when we see giving, we see it always broken down into percentages. Notice that he doesn't say, 50% is for you and 50% is for me. That's not how it does. That's not how it works. He could have, because it's all his. But to create balance in our life, he teaches us that the first part, the 10th part, is his. Put that to the side, and that'll be used for the work of the kingdom exclusively. And then once you learn how to get that part of your life right, then the rest of the 90% of your substance and things like that, you will learn how to put that into proper places, and you end up becoming more balanced. That's my whole point of this message, is to say that balance is not always equal. Balance is not always equal, but balance is always tov. Balance is always functional. And when a person is out of balance, it's not necessarily because there are things that are not equal. It's because things are not functioning in its proper place. I'll just give this last illustration. Have you noticed that, there's a big concern about people wanting to be balanced? But with all of the electronic devices that claim our attention today, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have them, but I doubt very seriously we can stay balanced as a person using them 80% of our wakening moments. I don't think that's the way it was designed. You were going to naturally go out of balance. And so then what do? We have to start organizing things not necessarily based on equality, but based on functionality. Because there's 3 areas of the human that we have to be concerned about. Of course, everyone knows the physical, which means we got to put in some physical exercise. Does that mean you got to physically walk or exercise, say 8 hours and then sleep 8 hours? No, that's not the point. You better find that balance though. But so physical. But then we have emotional health, which is now being moved into like what they call mental health. And there's a lot of ways that we can find ourselves out of balance, and it doesn't mean that you have to make everything equal. But I will say this in conclusion: you cannot take the essentials out. Let me give you an example. Let's go back to that baking illustration. You only put a pinch of salt. So a person would say, it was just a pinch of salt. Take it out though. Let's see what happens. It throws the whole thing out of balance. It's not going to be good, even though it's small. Just like, let's say, with the Shabbat. Oh, it's just 1 day. Take it out and watch what happens. So, our King, Hamashiach, is our example of true balance. And you saw how hard he worked every day. But the scriptures also tell us how he took Shabbat, how he went to the mountains, how he prayed, how he taught, healed, fed people, how he preached, and everything is in its proper place. And as a result, that's an example for us, because no one lived a more balanced life than our King. And if we want to have a life and life more abundant, we need to learn true balance. It's not simply just a yin and yang or an equality. True balance is when we allow Abaya to create in us proper proportions for functionality. That's it.